All right. Good morning, everybody. It's June 23rd. Wow, bright and early 2021. Thank you so much for joining the sixth meeting of the Burlingame Collaborative. This marks our 1 year anniversary, believe it or not, that this community volunteer group came together to figure out how we can share information and help one another through the pandemic. And certainly what a difference a year makes. What a difference 3 months makes from our last meeting when we gathered in March and we had a great presentation from county health officials about the vaccination rollout. I hope by now everybody on this call and your loved ones are all double vaxxed and looking forward to a better summer than certainly than last year as we continue to navigate all this new territory. So before we launch in today's very informative program, I have just a couple brief announcements and a thank you. So I'm just going to take 1 minute right now. The first announcement is that within 24 hours, I will send a follow-up email with a link to today's meeting recording. So if there's folks in your organization or people you know, friends and neighbors who could benefit from this information, please do feel free to share the meeting recording. And our panelists were very gracious to allow us to do that. Secondly, there'll also be another link in that email to a YouTube meeting recording, compliments of John Kavranian. We appreciate that he did that. There was a pretty amazing presentation that members of our Burlingame Collaborative did regarding the intergenerational project that brought together both seniors in our community with teens to address sort of that feeling of community isolation. And suffice to say, it was an incredible success. Watch the meeting video, you'll learn all about it, but it culminated in an incredible book that was published to benefit called Primrose. I tried to order 5 copies. They're already sold out. Hopefully there'll be a reprint, but it was an incredible success, a real collaborative effort. So thanks to the seniors and teens who participated, to Dale Perkins, who dedicated the artwork, and Raziel Ungar. Also, Facebook sponsored the printing, and the whole effort was coordinated by Sarah Simpson and Namrata Mundra to kind of pull everything together. So big shout out. If any of you have projects that have sort of originated from the collaborative or you want to share announcements or information, please just email Robin and me, and we'll get it in the email as well. So finally, just some thank yous. Thanks to all of you for showing up bright and early at 8 a.m. We know you're busy folks. We're glad you're here. Thanks to the steering committee who created the vision and the idea for this particular topic this morning, this program about financial assistance for both tenants and small landlords. So great, very timely information. And finally, thanks to the chairs of this meeting, Robin Montoya and Terry Bosch, who really coordinated everything and are going to run the program. So without further ado, I'll hand it over to Robin, and we hope you get a lot out of this morning. Thanks.
Well, thanks, Emily. And I want to echo what Emily has said. It's great to see you all. Wow, a year. And I think we've accomplished quite a bit. And really serve the goals that we set out to do. So thank you all for all you do for the community and just in general. Welcome to the meeting that's on the topic of accessing rental relief funding for tenants and landlords. And we will be discussing it from both viewpoints, tenants and the landlords. And I hope you had a chance to take a look at the agenda. We're very fortunate to have 2 folks that are sort of on the front line, so to speak, and have the most up-to-date information on this, and they'll be doing a presentation. And then we want to spend a good amount of time with Q&A. We anticipate some good questions, and then we'll just see how it goes. We can do some breakouts if there's time, or certainly want to have time for some community announcements. So be thinking if there's anything that you'd like to share with the group. We'll just kind of keep it flexible and see how the time goes. Because again, we want to make sure there's plenty of time to get this really timely information out, and also give you a chance to ask any questions. And also one of the goals of the meeting is to be thinking about how you as collaborative members and also community leaders can get some of this information out to the folks who need it. So real appreciative of that. So I'm going to go ahead, and we're so fortunate to have these 2 panelists. We have Trice Taylor, who's the Associate Director of Programs and Services at the Samaritan House, and Mark Nagales, who is the San Mateo County Outreach Coordinator for Project Sentinel. And they're going to describe their organizations a little bit and lead into their presentations. I also wanted to mention Mark is also Vice Mayor of South San Francisco. I wanted to make sure to honor his service. So without further ado, let's launch into the presentations. Latrice, thanks so much for being here, and please go ahead.
Good morning, everyone. I am Latrice Taylor. I am from Samaritan House, and yay, I know how to share screens. So it is so good to see all of you, as you will, and really are glad that you could join us today. Thank you so very much for the invitation to get started first thing in the morning. And hopefully some of you have heard about Samaritan House, maybe some have not, so bear with me. I'm just gonna talk a little bit about who we are. We're known as the Safety Net organization, and as one of 7 core agencies that covers all of San Mateo County. And we're known for fighting poverty and lifting lives. And let's hope. Don't. And of course, it freezes. No, don't do that. So sorry, just a quick second, see if I can get this thing to go.
Technology is so fabulous, and
Isn't
sometimes
it
can be frustrating.
Gosh. And that's why we luckily sent a copy to you. So if you've got it, I'll stop my share because for whatever reason, it is not moving forward.
All right, I'm going to queue it up and let's see.
Thank you.
Sure.
So sorry about that, folks. And it worked when I did it, of course, but not when everybody's here. But I'll keep talking if y'all don't mind. We have been around for almost 50 years, and we do the most basic core services of food, clothing, food, clothing, and housing. And you can go to the second slide. Thank you. So our mission is to improve lives and promote self-sufficiency. If you've heard about Samaritan House, these are some of the programs that you may have heard us on by other names, like Safe Harbor Shelter, which is a single adult shelter for both men and women. It's located near the San Francisco airport. We have Kids Closet, which offers free clothing. And in fact, anything I'm about to talk about, everything is free. We do not charge for any of our services. But we have Kids Closet, which is a nice store. You walk in and you have this whole shopping experience where anyone from 18 and under can receive clothing on a monthly basis, dresses, shoes, socks, diapers, pants. We always try and make sure that our I won't call them young adults, but our kids also are able to have access to nice clothing. And we have a We Care program, which we have connections with a lot of your junior and high schools, where we actually have curriculum set up to teach them about empathy and community service. We also have 2 free clinics, one in San Mateo and one in Redwood City, for anyone who does not have insurance whatsoever. So if they have Dentacal or Medi-Cal, we couldn't help. But for those folks who have nothing, our clinics can actually serve as medical homes. And we even have food pharmacy for those who have high blood pressure or diabetes. If a doctor diagnoses them with either of those ailments, they actually can then get a prescription for food, and then the food is on site. So we're talking about milk, dairy, eggs, as much fresh fruits and vegetables as you need. And it's not just for the patient, but it's also for the whole household because we promote healthy eating. We have holiday programs. So that means we provide Thanksgiving meals or groceries, and Christmas groceries for any of our clients that register in advance, as well as we do toy giveaways. We're about to do backpacks to be prepared for the new school season, and do bikes and helmet giveaways. And that's just some of the things that we do. And food services, because of the community that's here. We are the largest partner, I believe, of Second Harvest Food Bank in the county. And so every day we have people drive through our parking lot and they get their weekly groceries. We do mobile meals for those who are homebound, seniors and disabled, where we deliver hot meals to them. And it is a meat, a vegetable, and a starch. They get that Monday through Friday. Bag lunches. Those who are homeless, we have partnerships with the different cities where they want to feed their seniors on site for some of the programs that have been closed, or even with the medical teams that do street medicine, they take our bag lunches out. So just to say that, and offer to any of you, if you have any events that are going on and you need food support, just give me a call or email and we can see about supporting your activity, because we do that for school pantries, school events where we'll provide the meals. And we do it safely because we're still following COVID restrictions, no matter whether we're opening or not. We want to be safe for our community. So next slide. So getting to the meat of what you're here for. As we've said, the California COVID-19 rent relief is now available. We've already talked a little bit about the federal funds, and my partner, Mark Nagales from Project Sentinel, is going to speak a little bit more to that. But just to say right now, what Samaritan House and Project Sentinel and Nuestra Casa, we're the official local partners, but there are other agencies coming on board to help with this. And in fact, anyone, any agency or any group or church or anyone who wants to help renters with what I'm about to explain, you're free to do so, because we really want this money available to tenants and landlords. One thing I'm gonna say that, and I can't say that enough, this is a tenant and landlord program. One of the people who are in this group, Rovi from the California Apartment Association, she helped me and others to understand this is not just a tenant program. This is a landlord program too. So it is really to help those who are experiencing financial hardship. We want to make sure that landlords and owners are getting paid, reimbursed, all the rental arrears that they may have had going all the way back to March. So if you had, any renter has been experiencing a financial hardship due to COVID-19, past due in rent or utilities, because also even if you're not behind in your rent, you can ask for this for just utilities, that's fine. And if you have a household income that's not more than 80% of the area median income, that's all that it takes initially to be eligible, okay? Next slide. So you may be eligible to receive help from this county. San Mateo County elected to go with a state agency known as Local Initiative Support Corporation, also known as LISC. So you may hear that terminology already. So renters and landlords can verify the eligibility immediately by going to the website housingiskey.com, or they call the phone number that's listed here. So I'm saying that anyone can go onto the website right now and go ahead and start an application, both landlords and the tenants. So landlords have actually started their own applications and then gotten the tenant involved. One thing I know, some are concerned that there are landlords have started them, and I've heard that maybe their tenant isn't responding to them. And if not, you can actually contact any of the three of us and we'll follow up with the tenant, because also understand your tenants are probably, those who are landlords out there, tenants are afraid of you right now. They're afraid that They don't want you to necessarily know they can't pay, or whatever is that situation about them not paying and being on time. They've been on time all, prior to COVID. They've worked with you so well over the years, and now we're in a situation that is unprecedented. People don't know and didn't understand that this could happen to them. People have worked their whole lives just so that they can continue to thrive and take care of their bills. And now I've seen files, because I have to review a lot of files separately, of people who used to make six figures, and now for the first time in their lives, they've had to come to us and just even ask for groceries. That can be very challenging. That's shameful. So we're trying to work on both ends to make sure that both the renter and the landlord are being served in this capacity. As I said, Samaritan House is one of the local partners. Nuestra Casa is another, and Project Sentinel will be following me shortly. But if you want to just go directly to the website or call, you can do that right now. What happens is, if you need additional help, you don't have a computer, don't know how to access whatever that is, that's when we can step in. Samaritan House is providing that technical support. So it's really simply talking to the person and talking them through the application process. The landlords is not very long whatsoever. And now they have shortened the application so that it only takes about 30 minutes for the renter now. And there's a lot of things that has made it so much easier. So whereas it has taken a while and it's taken 5-6 weeks before you hear something, now they've stepped up on their communication as well. Now they're letting you know, oh, we've received your application. Oh, and even if you've contacted them, they can find the case manager who can then tell you what's the status of your application. So there's been a lot going on in the past, but they keep trying to improve each day. When I say each day, it's changing daily. Let's see, for us, if you want to call us directly, just specific to these funds, our phone number, where it's just for lists, just for Housing is Key, for Samaritan House, is the number below, 798-4820. And that's when you leave a message, and one of my case workers will then work with you specific to this program. Next slide. And then just the last thing I'll leave with you is just for Samaritan House overall. If you need help, additional information, anything else around Samaritan House's other services I spoke about, we have our main number, and leave a message and they'll return your message within a business day. You can also apply on our website, which is SamaritanHouseSanMateo.org. And we always say add the San Mateo because there's a lot of Samaritan houses around the country. Or email us at info@SamaritanHouseSanMateo.org, or can visit our offices. Now, our offices, we are still closed, but we are meeting people outside and working with folks wherever they are, just to whatever is the question. Even if you don't know what your question is, we'll help you figure it out. And for now, that's all I have. And we'll hold questions for later. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much, Latrice. And as Latrice said, we will certainly have question and answer after the next presentation. Mark, please go ahead.
Good morning, everyone. Let me go ahead and share my screen here. Okay, just give me 1 second here. Can everyone see that? Thumbs up. Perfect. Good morning. My name is Mark Nagales. I am the San Mateo County Outreach Coordinator for Project Sentinel. A show of hands, how many of you have actually heard of Project Sentinel? Great. That's actually why we're here. We're here to let you know who we are, what services we provide, and how we can be a resource for you. So let's get started. So Project Sentinel is a nonprofit organization. We're actually broken up through 3 different departments. There's a fair housing department that actually investigates housing discrimination. So if you were a tenant and you were denied housing because of your sexual orientation or your gender or your medical history, that is a department that would look into those potential violations of your fair housing rights. We also have a mortgage department for those renters who are interested in becoming first-time home buyers. We actually have a department that actually will help you see if you're financially ready to become a homeowner. And for the purpose of this presentation, the third department, which is my department, is the landlord tenant department. The best way to describe my department is we provide free counseling to both tenants and landlords about what their rights and responsibilities are. So for example, if you're a tenant and you received a rent increase, we can actually talk about that to see if it's a valid rent increase, because there is new state law that deals with rent caps. If you're a landlord and you want to terminate a lease, there are rules regarding that, and I can help you in terms of checking the boxes to make sure it's a valid termination. Please know that while I will try to give you the best tips, the best practices, I can't offer you legal advice or represent you in court. But I can refer you to a nonprofit like the Legal Aid Society or the Loyal Referral Service like to the San Mateo County Bar Association. I also provided my contact information there in case if anyone wants to get a hold of me afterwards. So as Latrice mentioned, she talked about kind of the perspective from the tenant side, but let me talk briefly about the perspective from the landlord side and how one qualifies. So as mentioned earlier, in order to qualify in terms of a landlord, you need to have a tenant that's experienced some sort of financial hardship because of COVID. So for example, if the tenant lost their job, or their hours were reduced, or they were taking care of a loved one who was affected by COVID, that is one indicator in terms of a qualification. The second is the household income has to be 80% of the AMI, or average median income, or less. So what does that actually mean? So in San Mateo County, for a family of 4, the average median income is $179,500. So to qualify, for a family of 4, it needs to be 80% of the AMI, which is for San Mateo County, $146,350. So a family making less than $146,350 would qualify to receive financial assistance, but also as a landlord, your tenant qualifies for assistance. But it's also important to know, in terms of the landlord, in order to receive 80% of the back rent, the landlord has to waive 20% of the back rent. I'll say that again. In order to receive 80% of the back rent that is owed to you, you have to waive 20% of the back rent. And so it's also important as a reminder for landlords out there that under SB 91, which is the law that created this financial assistance program, that it's important for the landlords to provide these pieces of documentation. The first one is a notice of civil procedure, which basically explains both their rights and responsibilities of both parties during this time. The second is a 15-day notice to pay or quit. This is actually a special notice that was created for individuals who weren't able to pay for rent from September of last year to, as of right now, June of this month of this year. And then finally, probably the most important piece is the declaration form of financial distress, basically stating under penalty of perjury that you are, as a tenant, financially affected by COVID. So just really quickly, this is what it looks like in terms of the notice of civil procedure. This is what the 15-day notice looks like. And this is also the declaration form. These forms can be found under this link right here, under the housingca.gov. And I know we're recording this, so if folks need to find that form, that's where the link is. So prior to applying to the Housing is Key website, I always remind landlords to have forms ready to go. And actually, the forms have been simplified in terms of what you need to provide. You do need to provide a W-9 form, which is basically you're providing your tax ID number to the IRS for financial reporting purposes. And also now, in terms of the process, landlords just need to provide the lease agreement in terms of attaching the document. Prior to some of the updates, landlords did have to provide a little more documentation, but this the state did recently change the website to help streamline the process. But with that, I also encourage landlords to have proof of ownership of property, their property deeds, mortgage notes, or property tax statements, in case after you submit your application, the case manager might need more information or more documentation. So just have that ready. But as of right now, you don't actually need to upload this, which helps a lot in terms of streamlining the process. So here is actually the site of what it looks like. So when you go to housingiskey.com, you'll come up to this homepage. And this is where you actually want to apply, either both as a tenant or landlord. And once you click on it, this is the homepage that you'll see. For this purpose, you're going to click on I'm a landlord. But if you're a tenant or a renter, this is where you would click. So I tell landlords that this is a joint application, that you need to work with your tenant, because this is very important to have that open relationship, to have that open partnership. The reason why I say that is because once the landlord submits the documentation and completes their portion of the application, their tenant will receive an email asking them to participate in the application process. So that is why I tell landlords, have open communications with your tenant. Let them know at some point they're going to receive an email from LISC asking them to participate, asking them to provide documentation. So that's why we call it a joint application. So here's kind of the process for it. So on the landlord side. So once the landlord submits the documentation and submits their portion of the application, that email to the tenant will be sent asking them to participate. Once the tenant fills out their portion of the application and supplies documentation, a case manager will be assigned to their application, which will review the application to make sure that it's complete. Then it gets submitted to a second quality control individual to make sure that everything is correct in terms of the application. And then once that is okay and signed by both parties and it's completed, the landlord during the application process can actually ask either for the check to be direct deposited or a check can be mailed to them. And we were actually on a call, Trice and I, on a call with LISC, asking kind of the time frame from start of the application to when they actually receive the money. And they said it takes about 30 days. But there has been, unfortunately, some cases where the money has taken a lot longer, and I'm happy to discuss that a little bit further as we move along. So I wanted to mention in terms of the LISC email, for landlords, I always tell them, let your tenant know that they're going to receive an email from Neighborly Software. That is the email that that they're going to receive from the LISC program to participate in the application process. So tell them, Neighborly Software, you're going to receive an email. Please don't delete that. And then on June 4th, the state actually did some updates to the website, which would help streamline the process. So they reorganized some sections to make it a lot easier. They've reduced the number of paperwork that you would need to attach. Now there is pop-up tips throughout the website as you're filling out the application, so that if you have questions, that the pop-up tips can potentially answer them. And it's also important to know, this is the reason why I stress to have that working partnership with both the tenant and landlord, is that there have been instances where a landlord has applied, and unfortunately, for whatever reason, the tenant doesn't do anything. Know that they have 7 days for the tenant to complete their portion. If they don't, then that application gets flagged as a non-response status and it gets stalled and the application doesn't move at all. And then the tenant would have to actually reach out to the LISC program to reactivate the application. So the longer you take to do this, the longer the money is going to get to the proper hands. So as soon as you see that email, as soon as you hear from your landlord that that they're participating in the program, please do what's necessary to fulfill your obligations. Now, I wanted to provide some background on why I'm stressing the importance of kind of the partnership and having people apply. So for San Mateo County, San Mateo County was actually allocated about $42 million for rent relief. As of right now, this is as of June 20th. The county has requested about $31 million. I don't know if you can see my mouse here, but in terms of that total, 30 million has been requested for rent relief, and then 1.7 has actually been requested for utilities, because as Trice mentioned, you can actually use the emergency rental assistance program to help pay for your utilities. Now, out of that 31 million that's been requested, as of June 20th, only 11 million has been approved, but out of that 11 million, only 3 million has been paid out to both tenants, been paid out to landlords or to tenants in terms of the 25% that they're obligated to receive if the landlord doesn't participate. So there is a huge gap there in terms of how much money we still have out there. So it's important to have these presentations so that for your clients or for your constituents that you are helping, please encourage them to participate in this program, because there is free money out there to pay off whatever back rent that they owe. Now, I think most of you have heard that SB 91 is potentially ending at the end of this month. But there is heavy negotiations right now going on to potentially extend that moratorium. And I'm hearing, and maybe Rovi can correct me, but maybe it could be extended to the end of September. And that's actually really, really important, because there are time frames in terms of the funding. September actually is an important month, because 65% of the funding has to be exhausted by the end of September, and by the end of the year, all the funds have to be exhausted. Now, you saw that in terms of the funding, there's this delay, and also not enough folks potentially applying. What I'm hoping for is there's going to be legislative fixes for the moratorium extension. And one of the big fixes that I'm hearing is that instead of 80% of the back rent being paid by the state, there is a strong push for 100% of the back rent being paid out, which I think will entice a lot more landlords and tenants to apply. So now the landlord's going to receive 100% of the money that is owed to them. Another legislative fix that I think is going to happen, and I think it's going to be another big fix, is what's called self-evicted tenants. Under the current rule, in order for a landlord to receive rent relief, you have to have that tenant that's financially in distress living in the unit. So what a self-evicted tenant means is, unfortunately, that tenant has left for whatever reason, and unfortunately, those landlords currently under this program are not eligible to receive financial funding for any rent relief. So that's why I always stress to have that open partnership with your tenant, because if that tenant does self-evict, I'm hoping this legislative fix will allow those landlords with tenants that self-evicted to apply for those financial funds. So stay in touch with those tenants that self-evicted. Make sure that you have their contact information so that you can reach out to them to apply for that rent relief once that legislative fix actually happens. And we're hearing maybe on Monday, we'll see what those potential fixes are. So please stay tuned to see what happens next. And then finally, just for some important phone numbers, this is the first phone number is to the call center at LIST. So if you have an application and you, for some reason there's a delay or you're wondering what the status is, that's the phone number and the email that you want to call or reach out to. If you need assistance like booking an appointment, like for one of the agencies like Samaritan House, like Trice mentioned, or need to talk to us about something, the booking center, that's the phone number that you want to call, or you can just reach out to our individual agencies as well. And then finally, I kind of want to list our email specifically for the ERAP program, or Emergency Rental Assistance Program. That is the email that, along with myself and other colleagues, monitor. So if you have a question about the ERAP funds or the application, that's the email. And then finally, this is kind of like I did a shorter version of the presentation. We actually have on our website videos of actually going step by step on the application on our website. So if you're interested in learning a little bit more about the application process, we have videos up there on our website, and that's the site you want to go visit. So with that, I am happy to answer any questions you might have. Thank you.
So thanks, Mark, and thanks to both of you for that wealth of information, not the least of which is exactly where to go, and that our folks can, share with folks that they deal with the exact resources and the phone numbers and sites that they can go to for information. So now we'd like to open it up for some Q&A, and if you'd like to raise your hand, that's great. Or if you feel more comfortable putting your question in the chat, we can take it from there. Anyone have any questions?
I see Terry's hands raised.
My real hand as opposed to the electronic type. A great presentation. I really appreciate it. Thank you. And I'm glad to know that there's a step-by-step, because that's really what I was looking for also. And as I'm sure you and Latrice, both of you have found, is those that are most in need of this have the least access to the technology. So I see that it looks like they can access in multi-languages. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And then, so my question is, could I print out that application, give it to those seeking help, have them hand complete it, and I or other folks like I could be the resource to enter it for them into the system? Is that doable?
Yes.
I think Latrice froze. The answer is okay. Now, I would add to that to make sure that that person has an email address.
Yeah.
That's the challenge. So, so
you'd have to create one.
Yeah,
for
you would
them.
have to create one because,
okay.
part of the application process is you need an email. Because, for example, if it's the tenant that you're helping and the landlord fills out their portion of the application, as I mentioned earlier, the tenant is supposed to receive a notice from LIST that is tied specifically to that application. So having an email address set up for them is important as well. But I would, if you can help folks do it, because I know there's language barriers, which is a lot of reasons I think for the delay in folks applying, or folks not having the available technology. If you can help folks do it, I would encourage folks to do it.
Okay, thank you. And then just to be clear, if the landlord participates and the tenant participates, it's all good. If the landlord participates and the tenant does not, there's nothing for the landlord.
Right. So it's there might be a legislative fix, maybe, hopefully, where that happens. But I'm going by what currently is allowed, is that, as Latrice and I both mentioned, it's a joint application, meaning if the landlord applies, in order for them to receive the 80%, they have to obviously waive the 20% of the back rent, but the tenant has to also apply to the program. Now, the flip side of it is if the landlord refuses to participate and the tenant goes on their own, the tenant is only eligible for 25%
Right.
of the back rent.
Okay, excellent. But there's still
And
something there for the tenant.
I'm sorry, Terry, what was that?
There's still potentially something there for the tenant if the landlord is not participating.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
And then my last question, I promise, is legal status required?
No, does
Excellent.
not matter. Just apply.
Thank you. Excellent presentation, both of you. Thank you. Great information.
Thank you.
I see Rovi from the California Apartment Association here has provided a lot of resources for for landlords. It has her hand up, Robin. So you asked me to flag who has their hand up, and then followed by the city librarian, Brad McCauley.
Great, thanks. Rovi?
Hi, good morning, everybody. And thank you very much, Councilmember Beach, for the invitation to join this group. Rovi Lynn Antonia with the California Apartment Association. And we are a trade association that represents rental property owners. I cannot echo enough about what Mark and Latrice have mentioned regarding the mutually agreed upon program improvements that has been made in the state. I believe there was no organization or individuals that contested to these program improvements, including ourselves. So we are appreciated that the state has helped us on this. One of the things that Mark mentioned about is, potential barrier for why rental property owners may be hesitant to apply, and that is the 80% ratio and a 20% payout. 20% forgiveness. We're also supportive of the state looking at the improvements to converting this to 100% payout to cover the rental arrears. So that is something that we are hoping that comes forward with their next reiteration of improvements. I think the main message that I want to say is that there really needs to be a mutual cooperation between the rental property owners and the residents for this program to succeed. It is a joint effort. And so, as I have shared with both Latrice, Mark, and faith-based leaders, if there is one member of the party who may be hesitant or unwilling, the California Apartment Association offers itself to be a resource to help intervene and explain the benefits of why applying and participating in this program really is a win-win situation to cover rental arrears and get everybody away from the red moving forward. So I would like to continue offering that resource to the city of Burlingame, as well as the other partners in this call, to know that we are here to also help intervene and speak to rental property owners about this program and continue to promote the program as it should be. But the last thing I want to say too is that I thank you, Mark, for providing the latest numbers on the rental application requested and payout. I'm glad to see that improvement happening. So we're hoping to see more cities continue to communicate with their constituents to subscribe to this program and really use all of the $47 million, since it is a use it or lose it. And we'd hate to see any of this dollars to go back to the state or to the federal government. Thank you.
Let me just echo what Rovi mentioned. This is a joint venture, and what's frustrating for me is was when I'm helping a landlord, and then for whatever reason, again, the application is delayed, which affects a lot of folks. It affects the landlord, it affects the tenants, it affects the numbers in terms of what we're seeing. Because Latrice and I, we get on these calls with the county, and we're just frustrated that not enough folks are applying to this. And I think it's maybe because they see the numbers and they see the delays in terms of the application. So I know that I've spoken to Rovi about this, and I have also spoken to Sam Carr, is that I appreciate the continuing conversation that we have and the partnerships that we have to establish that, so that we can make sure that the folks who are hurting right now, both the tenants and landlords are hurting right now, that we can get them the necessary help. And that's the most important thing.
And I also wanted to add as well, because as we're trying to get more of the word out into the community, if you need us to help with that, other than just like a presentation, or if it's a pop-up somewhere, if you need staffing to come out, or communities that we need to do outreach to, please let us know. That's what we're here for. That's part of the work that we're doing. Also, just to say, if there's any owners or landlords on here now who were there, you're ready to go, but you can't get the tenant, call Samaritan House or Nuestra Casa or Project Sentinel and let us know about the tenant, because we can come from that angle as well, because a lot of times they've received help in some other way. So we've actually been able to reach out to tenants and talk to them about, hey, this is why your landlord's trying to contact you to get you help. So please just contact us. That's not a problem. And one last thing, we've talked about the 80% and hopefully the legislative action going to 100%. One thing to be said today, go ahead and apply for the 80% now, because if that action takes place, you've already got the 80%. What will happen is the legislative action will change to 100 and you won't have to reapply. You'll just automatically get the 20%. You'll just be topped off. So go ahead and get as much now as is possible, as opposed to waiting for any legislative action. You don't want to wait for that. We don't know if it will come to pass. We're hopeful, but go ahead and get the 80% now. And then if it should happen, you'll get the check for that other 20%. So wanted to let y'all know that as well.
Great, thanks. Brad, did you have a question?
More of a statement. Hi, everyone. Brad McCulley, City Librarian for City of Burlingame. Sorry, I'm late to this conversation, metaphorically and literally, because I showed up late to the meeting. But this is awesome. This is amazing work you guys are doing. But what I wanted to say was to Terry and to others is you could send people to the library now that we're open. And we've only been open for a week, a little over a week. But most other libraries in the county, and after this meeting, I plan on sending out a message to my colleagues, to all the library directors in San Mateo County, to say, here are some videos to watch, get ready for some applications. And you can send people to, like I said, to any library in the county. Almost all the libraries have their computers up and running. Some of them are limited in the number of computers compared to what we used to have. Ours are pretty much back to 100%, I believe. It's going to take my staff a little while to get caught up on watching these videos and kind of familiarize themselves with the process and how to help people with the applications. But I think once they've kind of gotten a little bit of information under their belt, other than maybe a language barrier, I don't see an issue with how my staff could help. So send them our way and we'll figure out what we can and do what we can.
That's great.
We could actually also send along the flyers from the county to you, so that y'all can plaster that all across the county as well. That's not a problem.
If you can send those to me here at Burlingame, I can distribute them throughout all the county libraries.
And we're distributing them here as well. Brad, one question for you. Would your staff be able to help a fairly novice technological person establish an email?
Oh yeah, we do that all the time.
Oh, excellent. Okay, thank you.
So one of the things I wanted to mention, so one of the barriers is the technology. And one of the partner organizations mentioned that for folks who don't speak English, it's taking them maybe an hour and a half to 2 hours to complete the application. And so I would ask for folks who go to the library or for any of us to be patient. This obviously the folks who are applying are already in a stressful situation. So that if you can help them kind of go through the process, that would be very helpful. But now, because of the changes, we're hoping that it's not an hour and a half, 2 hours, that hopefully it should take about half an hour maybe. But it all depends on one's comfortability with technology, right? And also having the documentation that you need. So what I would suggest for folks is, to go on the website, see what's needed, and then have those documentation ready to upload. And again, our organizations and Trice, we're there to help in any way we can. So.
And Mark, does the tenant's application trigger a landlord request for an application?
Yes. So Latrice, do you want to mention in terms of when a tenant applies, does the landlord get notified?
Yes, after the tenant puts in their application, then they reach out to the landlord as well. And then they have a certain time frame. I want to say it's 7 to 10 days.
The 7 days, right?
Yeah. And if they don't get a response, then that's when they start considering the 25% instead.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Okay, good to know. Linda, I see your hand up.
Yeah, hi, good morning, everyone. Linda Wolin from Supervisor Dave Pine's office. Nice to see you. Question for Latrice and or Mark. We get some questions sometimes about tenants who may have gone into, I'll call it secondary debt, who've managed to pay some or all of their rent by borrowing from another source, and it's kind of informally accrued.
Yeah.
And they're also kind of struggling with that. So can you
Shadow debt, yes.
explain how what happens? Thanks.
As far as I know right now, that's not going to be covered under the state. What we would suggest is say contact Samaritan House, because we are talking to people about that shadow debt. We do, what I didn't say is, we've been doing this type of financial assistance for years. This specific to the federal funds, that's one thing, and that's actually where we're sending most people. But there are still folks who could potentially use the financial resources we have in this county, and that's what the cores do. So if they have a different type of debt that's not, that they paid off, or they have a medical bill or whatever that looks like, we could actually talk them through eligibility for our own funds within the county. And I will say further, that's not just COVID, but non-COVID. We're still doing financial assistance. The hope is that we want to use all the federal dollars first for all the COVID rent and utilities. But we know, there's shadow debt right now. We know people have gone to payday lenders and they've done other things or borrowed from family or what have you. Just have them call us directly, and then we can walk them through what does that look like. And then is there a way of say we could help next month's rent because we see you paid out this for something else. That's part of the work that we've always been doing.
I can say that, Linda, thanks for bringing that question up, because we've discussed that in Project Sentinel. And what I've been hearing, there has been some discussion in the legislature about it. I just don't know if that's a legislative fix, because I guess there's ways to track it, but the way the current funding source is written out, it's for folks who are currently living in their unit, trying to stay in their unit, right? It'll be interesting to kind of see, I think hopefully on Monday, what those legislative fixes are with the potential extension. If Supervisor Pine can reach out to Assemblyman Mullen or Senator Becker about the shadow debt, and they can talk to Assemblymember Chu, who I know is kind of leading the charge on the negotiations. That might be something that they take a look at in terms of a legislative fix. But yeah, I'm not sure how, other than going to Samaritan House and getting those resources to help pay that debt off. That might be something that we see as a potential issue after September if the program ends.
Well, I appreciate those comments, and it's also just for the information of everyone else on this call. And then in the instance, if you're talking to potential applicants to the program who might be nervous about applying under those circumstances, that Samaritan House is a resource for sort of the alternative support.
Yep.
John?
Thank you for the great presentation. Do we know how our local cities are promoting this program to the constituents? Do cities have a link on their website promoting it? How can we help besides letting our friends know? Do we contact cities to put these links on their website, or school districts? And in Burlingame School District, we have hundreds of families that are under the CARE program. And I know that many of the families are struggling. Maybe we can have our school district send out an email to the families. We have about 3,000 families.
Thanks, John, for the question. Let me just take that a little bit. So City of Burlingame has a weekly e-news. You have to opt into it, but we have thousands of people, and housingiskey.com, and these flyers have been put in a number of times. I have a constituent newsletter. I get that out as well. Social media. Love the idea of the school district. They're a huge resource, and we have one of our trustees on the call right now, and many of them are very engaged. Just as context, John is exactly right. For purposes, for leaders in the community should realize 52% of our population in Burlingame rents their home. 48% are homeowners. So we have a lot of tenants. Some of them are in homes, many of them are multi-unit apartments. Our school districts range anywhere from 12 to 15% at both Burlingame School District K through 8, and the high school is, I think, even a little higher. 12 to 15% of those kids are on free and reduced lunch programs. And that means their family of four is making in the neighborhood of $50,000 a year, $50,000 a year. It's really low. It's over the federal poverty limit. So we have a lot of community members that could take advantage of this program. And you saw the numbers. You don't have to make, you can make in 6 figures and qualify for this program. So it's really important that we use our collective lift to get the word out. John, great idea though. However, whatever associations we have, faith leaders, I see a couple that were on this call, and I know many are going to watch the video because they couldn't be a part of this, can put it in their bulletins and newsletters. They're trusted sources of information as well. And it sounds like Brad is all in with the library information too.
Great, thanks for asking that question. That was one of the purposes of steering committee coming up with this idea for our program, was to utilize the collaborative and our collective brains to think about ways to get this information out, especially since it's slightly time sensitive. And we definitely want to use those funds. We have a couple more minutes. Are there any more questions or comments from the group?
I just have one more clarification. So I know we have as Emily mentioned, so many folks that currently meet that low and extremely low income definition. But just to clarify, there has to be some proof or evidence that COVID impacted these folks, and not that they were low income and struggling to begin with. Is that correct?
Well, so the part of the application process was, as I showed earlier, there was a financial distress form.
Yep.
Now you just have to click a box that says you were financially affected by COVID, but we still tell landlords to provide that because it's part of the law. And once the once the tenant signs it, again, they're personally attesting that they are financially affected. So, I mean, so if the landlord thinks that they're not, potentially they could take legal action against them. But then, you know, I haven't seen that happen. So yeah, so the process before was you had to include that form. They know the landlords have to give it, the tenant has to sign it, then the tenant has to basically upload it. But now the form is actually included in the application process. So for whatever reason you didn't get it, now you've received it, and now you can click on a button to say that you received the financial distress form. Am I right, Latrice?
Yeah, and they get an email that says that their application was accepted. And one thing also I thought I better add, some people only get paid, some of the renters only get paid in cash. You do not have to have like a physical pay stub or letter now. You can they have an attestation on there where you sign under penalty of law, you're not lying. So it's really that simple, that they've really tried to streamline the application so that it can be moved forward. And they're doing better with communicating with both applicants as to where the status is and moving that application along. It's just, sadly, March 15th is when this was kicked off. And being that these are federal funds, they had no choice but to start it. And quite literally, we had to go into a training on a Sunday morning to say, we got to start the program. So a lot of the bugs, it did take a minute, and the plane was already flying while we were still building it, but it's okay.
Yeah.
We're going to keep working to make sure that things get better and the experience becomes better, as well as other things as weekly, we meet with the state folks. We'll be on a call later today and then office hours tomorrow. And our county is on a call also with the state folks, ongoing, so that we can continue to make the experience easier for folks. Because I mean, we're already being hit hard by not being able to pay rent, or landlords not having the income that they are expecting that should make everybody's life easier. We're all in this together. So as a community, we're going to continue to work to try to make it better so that everybody can benefit when it's all said and done.
How wonderful to know. And we've run out of time, and I know everyone's super busy, and I apologize, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I
No, I'm good.
want to be respectful of people's time. If there are any community announcements from the group, Emily will be sending out a follow-up email with the recording and more information. So if there's any updates that you'd like to share, you can get that to either she or I. And again, I want to thank our panelists for being here today, Latrice and Mark. Wonderful, wonderful information. We're so appreciative. To thank our collaborative members, Terry for helping to put this together, and Emily as always. And look forward from more information. Emily, any final remarks, or Terry?
No, just huge thanks. This was incredibly informative. And this presentation was just like plain, like such straightforward language to understand a program that can be intimidating to all of us to just even figure out how to navigate. I thought it was brilliant.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I just want to make sure when I send a summary email, I've got the numbers correct. I've heard anywhere from 42 to 47 million is available. Do you guys have or is it a moving target? How much money was actually available?
My understanding was 42 million.
Okay, 42 million, and 31 million has been requested. So that means there's still about 11 million out there unspoken for. Do I have that number correct?
That's correct.
Yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to because that's really, really important information. No, if anybody would like to stay on the call and do some, if we have a few, we can continue to have a conversation, do a little breakout or not. It's up to you, but a couple of us will hang on for at least 15 more minutes. But huge thanks to the speakers and to Robin. And if anybody else has announcements, just wonderful, wonderful presentation today.
Thanks, Emily.
My takeaway is going to be work with your landlord, everybody apply.
Yep.
I did see a couple of property owners on the call too, and I know a number wanted me to send the video to them. So this is going to be great information. Bravo, bravo.
Yeah, I was also appreciative how straightforward it was with just the key points that people need.
Yep.
Like I said, we have a video if you're interested in more in depth, like step by step. We have those videos on our website.
Are you guys okay if I share the slides in the follow-up email as
Please.
well?
Yeah, of course.
Okay,
Please.
so I'll do a
Yeah.
link to the video, the slides, a couple of highlights, and yeah, this would be terrific.
Yes. Spread the word.
Awesome. Well, thanks for your work. You're really doing incredible work at your two organizations. So,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
awesome. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Brad, thanks for being here.
You're welcome. I would love to stay and brainstorm with you, but I've got another meeting to jump
No.
into.
All good.
I'll touch base with you later, though.
You bet. And John, I asked a question in a pre-meeting. This program is not available for business owners. You probably knew that, but in case business owners ask, gosh, this is awesome. Can I get money for my background on my business? But that's not part of the part of this particular program, but there's lots of other grant funds and stuff that have been available.
Many landlords in the commercial industry business have gotten PPP funding if they were a property owner. So many landlords have been reimbursed for rents that were not paid through the PPP.
Right, right. So that's good to know. All right, I'm going to pause the recording.